She pointed at me and yelled, "Arrest him! He's blocking HOA work," while bulldozers idled behind her on my beach. I didn't say a word. Two men in orange vests dragged caution tape across the sand like they owned the tide. My daughter squeezed my hand and whispered, "Dad, our boats." Karen smirked and slapped a notice on my chest. "Approved build. 38 cabins. You're done here." I watched them hammer a sign into the ground that said, "HOA property, right where my grandfather taught me to fish." A tow truck rolled up and hooked my truck as if it was trash. The driver avoided my eyes. Karen leaned close and smiled sweet. "Rules are rules." The fake cop she called puffed his chest and asked for my ID. I handed it over calmly. Because calm is what you learn when you've been trained to wait. The engine of the tow truck roared, my truck lifted, and my kids started crying. I looked past Karen at the water line, at the old stone marker half buried in sand. The one nobody ever checks. I finally spoke, soft enough that only she heard. "You might want to stop the build," she laughed. Too late. I didn't argue. I pulled out my phone, hit record, and said one line the way my old commander taught me to say it. "Please state who told you this land isn't mine." The fake cop scoffed and turned the camera away, but the foreman froze when I said that. "Ma'am," he asked Karen, "who signed the permit?" She snapped, "The HOA board. That's all you need to—" "No!" The tow truck stopped mid-lift. Because my phone rang, I answered without looking at Karen. "Yes, sir." "They're already here." Karen rolled her eyes and clapped once, slow and rude. "Calling friends won't help you." She waved at the workers. "Keep going." The foreman hesitated, then nodded, because money talks. A lock crew walked straight to my dock and started drilling the gate. My daughter yelled, "That's our boat!" Karen turned to her and said, "Not anymore." That's when something small changed. A black SUV pulled up behind the bulldozers. No sirens, no lights. Just quiet. A man stepped out, older, calm, wearing county boots dusty like he'd been walking land all morning. He didn't look at Karen. He looked at the stone marker by the water. He knelt, brushed sand away, and frowned. Karen snapped, "Sir, this is an HOA site. You can't—" He stood up and said, "Funny." Karen crossed her arms. "What's funny?" He pointed at the marker. "This number doesn't match your map." She laughed loud. "That rock? That's nothing." He pulled out a folded paper, old and yellow at the edges. "Then why does this deed say the island was split wrong in 1968? Karen's smile twitched. "Just for a second." I stayed quiet. Because the loud part was coming. Karen laughed again, but it sounded thin now. "That paper is fake," she said, pointing at the man's hand. "We've built here for months." The man didn't argue. He just waved at the lock crew. "Stop." They looked at Karen. She shouted, "Don't listen to him!" One worker kept drilling anyway. The sound cut sharp across the water, then died. The drill sparked and shut off. The power box went dark. The cabins behind us went quiet like someone pulled the plug on the whole island. Karen spun toward me. "What did you do?" I shrugged. "Nothing today." Her face turned red. "You think you're smart?" I already filed a report. "You threatened my board." Right on cue, 2 patrol cars rolled onto the dock road. Karen smiled big and walked fast to them. "Officers, thank God. Arrest him. He's blocking a legal build and trespassing." One cop looked at the cabins, then at my kid standing barefoot by the boat. "Sir," he said to me, "is this your property?" Before I could answer, Karen jumped in. "No, HOA land." The older man stepped forward and handed the cop the folded paper. "Before you cuff anyone, read page 3. The cop's eyes moved. His jaw tightened. He looked back at Karen. "Ma'am, did you know this island isn't in your HOA boundary?" Karen snapped, "That's impossible." The cop pointed at the cabins. "Then why does the tax record list all this under his name?" Karen laughed once more, too loud. "That can't be right." The second cop whispered something to the first. The first nodded. "We need to call this in." Karen's phone buzzed at the same time. She checked it, and her smile vanished. Karen stepped back like the dock moved under her feet. "Who are you texting?" I asked, calm. She didn't answer. Her fingers shook as she read the screen again. "That's not possible," she whispered, then louder. This is harassment. The older man leaned close to the cop. Ask dispatch who paid the last 10 years of island taxes. Dispatch answered fast. Too fast. The cop's radio crackled and he looked straight at me. Sir, your name is on every payment. Karen snapped her head around. He doesn't even live here full time. I smiled a little. I didn't need to. She lunged toward the cabins and yelled at the workers. Keep building. You're protected. The foreman dropped his clipboard. No, we're not. He pointed at the patrol cars. We're out. Karen turned on him like fire. You can't leave. I'll sue you. He shook his head. You already did worse. Then a county boat eased up to the dock. 2 people stepped off with cameras and badges. One of them said, We're here about a false permit and forged. HOA approval. Karen's mouth opened. Nothing came out. My son tugged my sleeve and whispered, Dad, is this why you told us to pack early? I nodded. Karen heard that. She laughed, sharp and scared. You planned this. I looked at the cabins, the locked gate, my kids, the water. No, I said. I waited. One of the badge holders turned to Karen. Ma'am, you're going to want a lawyer. She looked at me like she finally saw me. For the first time. And that's when the judge's clerk called my phone. Karen tried to walk away like none of it mattered, but the cops didn't move with her. One of them asked her to stay right there. The builders started packing tools fast, eyes down, like they suddenly remembered they were on the wrong land. I watched my kids step back onto the dock, slow and careful, like they didn't trust it yet. My wife squeezed my hand and whispered, They really thought you wouldn't fight. Karen snapped at the officer. He tricked everyone. The officer looked at the cabins. The permits, the locked gates. No, ma'am. You did. That's when her phone rang. She smiled for half a second, then her face dropped. What do you mean the bank froze the HOA account? She turned red. I didn't say anything, but the reporter did. Is it true the HOA used member fees to build on private land? Karen shouted, This is harassment! The clerk's voice came back one last time. There's more. The judge approved an emergency hearing for fraud and misuse of funds. Karen stared at me like she was seeing me for the first time. You planned this? I shook my head. No, I just kept records. One of the builders muttered, We were told this island had no owner. I smiled, calm. That's the problem. I never disappeared. The camera zoomed in as Karen backed up, water behind her. Nowhere left to stand. The next morning felt quiet in a way I hadn't felt in years. The island was still. No engines, no shouting, just water and wind. The judge didn't wait long. He ruled the permits void, ordered the cabins removed, and froze every HOA decision tied to the island. Karen wasn't there when the news hit. Her lawyer spoke for her, voice low, eyes tired. Outside the courthouse, people from the HOA stood around confused, angry, then relieved. One man walked up to me and said, We paid for all that. She told us it was approved. I nodded. I know. A week later, the HOA voted her out. The same gate she once locked against my kids was opened, and the board handed me the key back in front of everyone. My son asked, Does this mean we can fish again? I smiled. All day. The last cabin was lifted off the island at sunset. As it floated away, my wife leaned on my shoulder and said, You stayed quiet, and still won. I looked at the water, clear again, untouched. This land was never about power, I said. It was about home, and for the first time, no one argued.